Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. We've got some work to do on our old Daytona to just kind of finish her up and tie up some loose ends that were left kind of hanging. But nothing, really functional. Just a few, it's mostly cosmetic stuff, I guess, and a few little odds and sods we got to touch on. Let's get to work. And before we get started, important little tidbit here. Claremont Classic Garage on YouTube has reached 600 subscribers. I can't believe it. There's 600 people in the world that are interested enough in all this stuff we do around here to hit that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, please go ahead right now. Hit the subscribe button down there and the bell for notifications. Stock cars may not be your thing, but you never know what we'll be doing tomorrow. There's 2 tractors sitting over there on the floor in front of me, another one outside the door, and a barn full of old cars over there to fill around with. So there's always something different happening here. The first thing we have to fix is our hood. On Saturday night, it was billowing up like this. It wasn't going anywhere, but it was annoying. And the back of it was bouncing because I forgot there's a little post that goes in here that supports that, and I'd taken it out when I was doing something else and forgot to put it back in. So what we're going to do to solve this problem, it's got aluminum plates that come up to here, but that's not enough. It bounces right at the end of it. So much so that on the other end here, on the other side, it started to crack. So I've got this really thin wall square tube. It doesn't weigh anything, but it's steel. And we cut 2 lengths of it. And we're just going to go front to back with a reinforcing rib on the underside of the hood. And that should stop that should stop it billowing. And then we'll put the post back in the rear of it here to stop the bouncing. So we've got our 2 little ribs in here, whatever you want to call them. The hood's still a little wobbly, but it's just a piece of sheet metal. And we got our support post back in the back. So I'll show you now. Let's see here how it's going to work. Now it'll sit a little higher in this corner because this is a LeBaron fender, not a Daytona fender, and they kind of dive down a little further at the front. But anyway, all of this is gone now. See, it's good, way better now. And I could even, if I wanted to, put a couple of pieces of heater hose under there. Next thing we got to make is some finish plates, or I think the fancy word is escutcheons, for the pins for the hatch, the rear deck. This car used to have an aluminum blade on the back of it, and we decided to take it off, and we didn't really notice any difference, so it stayed off. So these things used to come through the blade, and the blade was kind of the escutcheon, but now we don't have one. So I just cut these out of some aluminum with a hole saw. Now I put them on, use this bolt as a mandrel to make them, true them up, make them round in the lathe, and then we'll open up the center hole to 1/2 inch to go over the pins, and we'll rivet them down. Well, that looks a lot better. Next thing we got to do is get the lip of this quarter panel pushed out. It's been whacked on this side so much the sheet metal has gotten all pushed in, and now what happens, our wheel here sticks out. And that's not good, because if you get into some kind of fracas or something, you need the body to protect the sidewall of the tire, right, from getting cut down, or from the tire just kind of getting whacked and knocking your rear alignment out. So what we're going to do is we're just going to work around back and forth here in the wheel well. We've got our battery gun and a scissors jack, and you just work your way back and forth around, and eventually you'll get it pushed out. That's a lot better. You can see the tire is still a tiny bit proud of the quarter panel, but nothing like it was before. It was sticking out 1.5 inches before. I also fixed the other side. I got it pushed out too. That looks a lot better. What we're going to do now is change out this spring rubber. We're at the right rear. For a long time it had this half a rubber in it. And then a couple of weeks ago, the night of we had the big wreck, we were trying to loosen the car up a little bit. So we took the half rubber out and put a whole rubber in. But I found last week in the 50 lapper that the back of it still felt, the back of it felt a little more light than it normally had. Now, we had also taken the blade off the back of it. I don't know how much that had to do with it. But what we're going to do is I'm going to pull the full rubber out and put the half rubber back in, and we'll see how it feels this week. There we go. We're back to our normal half a rubber. Now an easy job of vacuuming out. I don't know where all this stuff comes from, but every week it just gets full of stuff. Bits of rubber and speedy dry and hunks of stuff that fell off other people's cars. Unbelievable how it all ends up in here. And there's a lot of dust because it was a dust bowl around here last week, and I was out grading the driveway, and this thing was sitting outside, and it just got full of this fine dust. So I'll vacuum all that out of it now. Now the dark side of winning. Here's what you get along with your trophy when you win the feature. You get a little trophy to put on your shelf, and you get this 50-pound trophy to bolt into your floor pan. It's something that they do in the lower divisions like this and the bone stocks to try and equalize things. You win a feature, you get 50 pounds. You come second in the feature, you get 25. Once you've got 100 pounds sitting in here, then they start chiseling away at your left side weight 0.5% at a time. So it's still fun to win, but it keeps you on your toes trying to keep your car fast after you start bolting all this weight in it. So lucky for me, I've got this one piece of lead that's literally exactly 50 pounds. So I've got it mounted in. It's been in there before. Now we're going to lift it up and put some washers and nuts on the bottom side. So there's our 50-pound trophy installed. It's painted white with our car number on it like it's supposed to be. You want to get a penalty in racing, lose a piece of ballast out on the racetrack. That is shunned upon and very, very bad. All right, now, while we're on the topic of weight, I'm going to tell you what happened to us in this whole deal, where we kind of gambled and lost. So Saturday night was a 50-lap feature, right? So you never know what's going to happen in a 50-lap feature. So we loaded this thing up with fuel. You can see here, it's after 50 laps. It's still, the fuel is still at the top of the, foam. This thing's got about 2/3 of its capacity still full of fuel. So how that screws us up, we just kind of took a guess. You go out for 50 laps, you can't be too careful. I've been out for 50 laps, like this one we just did, where it goes flag to flag without a yellow, and it's done in less than 20 minutes, right? I've been in other 50-lap races where you're out there for an hour and a half. So you got to, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So we loaded this thing with fuel. Well, then we won. So what happens now? The car rolls across the scales, and your 50 pounds of penalty weight is not added to the calculated base weight of your car, which this one is allowed to be at 2,300. No, your 50-pound penalty gets added to what the thing weighed when it rolled over the scales after you won. And because we had so much fuel in the damn thing, it went over the scales at 2375. Now, I know that's not all fuel, the 75 pounds, but it's, it could have maybe gone over there at 2360 or 2355 had it not had so much fuel in it. Had we had our normal fuel load that we'd have in for a 20-lap feature. Anyway, so they added the 50 to that, and we're at 2425. So for me, in order to make weight after the feature for the rest of the season now, I have to come off the track literally with the fuel at the top of the foam or above. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of weight in the back seat. I'm going to put maybe 10 or 15 pounds of lead in the back seat area there. and we can run the fuel, so we can run the fuel level lower. Because I'd rather have, if I got to carry that weight, I'd rather carry it there down low in the floor behind me than back here, a big pendulum swinging back and forth. You know, that's a better way of approaching it. So that's probably what I'm going to do now. And AIA. What's that? Apologize in advance. The next few weeks, the camera work on my videos is probably going to be a little shoddy and a little shaky. Please forgive me if you would. Deb, my wife, my normal camera person, is very busy looking after Cooper and Nugget, our two little puppies. So once they start to grow up and can be on their own a little bit more, she'll be out here more. And maybe Cooper and Nugget will be out here too. The new Claremont Classic Garage shop dogs. We do miss our sweetheart Harley every day, but life goes on. It's Cooper and Nugget now, and they're slowly taking the place over, let me tell you. Well, I managed to get the exhaust turned about 45 degrees. I was hoping to get it a little more sideways than that, but it was putting up a fight, and that's better than pointing straight down. It should stop the big dust cloud under the car. Last thing we're going to do is some paint touch-ups. One tip I can give to guys starting out in this sport, it's really tempting to send your car in and get your buddy to paint it in his body shop with some fancy paint and this, that, and the other thing, or send it in and get a wrap. And if that's what you're happy with, go for it. But for me, I've always preferred with standard run-of-the-mill trim clad or armor coat rust paint that I can get on the shelf at the store. It just allows me to, yeah, and yes, I paint it with a brush or a roller. It looks good from the grandstands. And it lets me keep the car looking decent without breaking the bank. So like this can of paint, it's been going for years now. And, you know, look at that. I've spiffed it up a bit. Yeah, it's full of dents, but who cares? The paint looks snazzy. Well, there you go. That's a few little jobs done on the old Daytona here that needed doing. She's pretty much ready to go now. All I got left to do before I put it on the trailer is torque the wheels and check my fluids. And it's ready to go to the racetrack. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you again. And until then, this is Kevin checking out from the Claremont Classic Garage. So long.